to the StackCast. Today we have another guest. We have Andrés. Say hello.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
All right. And why don't you go ahead and just introduce who you are, what you do, and why you're here?
Okay. Well, my name is Andrés. I'm here because you invited me to be here. Basically, I work in several Monero stuff. I mean, I have a day job, so to speak. By night, I fight crime and work on Monero. That's the way that I used to explain that. But on my day job, I work illustration, freelancing, animation, direction of films for companies, mostly animated. But what I've been known in the Monero community is because I am one of the people of the Monerujo team. Monerujo or Monerujo is one of the was the first mobile wallet for Monero. It's still only on Android and it's still rocking. Some of the other things that I've done in the Monero community is illustrations for the Mastery Monero book. That was me. And several logos that are being used in the Monero as a whole. And one of the things that I'm doing now, that I'm working on now, is in the Monero Garden project. It's a project of mine alone for now, that I'm making. It's a educational resource for the Monero community, especially to onboard new people to Monero. I'm trying to get together like a way for people that already know Monero to introduce newcomers to Monero, so to speak. So it's going to be a website, but it could also be printed, and it could also be in several shapes because it's basically content. But it's mostly going to be a website. I'm trying to explain Monero in three different in three different ways. What I've noticed in my years since I found Monero in 2017 is that I love the project. I think it's great for many reasons. We can talk about them later. But one of the things that I noticed is that you may have found it yourself as a community manager for Stack. There are like three people, right? Of course, nobody's 100% one of those people, but you can fit most people in three categories. One is like the nerds, the activists, and the normies, so to speak. So usually the normies the muggles are just interested in how to do stuff. They just want to know how to receive Monero, how to send Monero, how to spend, how to buy it, how to sell it. Very basic stuff. Very straightforward. Sometimes they are not basic, but they are very straightforward. I just want to know how to do stuff. The nerds really care about how things work, usually. And I have a bit of both. They like to know how the consensus works and how mining works and why some things are like this and like that. And then the activists are like the third category is people that want to know why, or that care about the why. Why privacy? Why Monero? Why decentralization? What is it important? What's the use case for Monero? But also, is it needed? Do we need Monero? Why can't we use just something else? We can just use Bitcoin. It's more well known, or some other things. And to all those needs, I try to provide an answer for them in the Monero Garden project, which is kind of structured. I'm in the writing process right now. I mean, I'm like 3/4 in probably to finish it, at least on the first shape that it's going to have, because I'm afraid that it's going to grow and grow forever. But yes, it's almost written, and it's structured like a choose your own adventure book, where you're beginning hopefully you don't die as often as you did in those books. But basically you are okay, you are in this point and you want to do X thing, you do it, you go to the next page, you go to the next page, and if you find it, your curiosity leads you somewhere else, you can find that, you can follow that path and arrive back and all of that. So that's why it's called the Monero Garden. It's just like a path. It's like a garden that you stroll in and you find stuff. Every time you want to know some more things about Monero, you can just hop on and learn more. So that's the whole idea. That's basically what I've done in Monero. And for what you have noticed probably, and most people listening to this have noticed, my thick accent comes from Spanish. I'm actually from Argentina. So I also try to do as much as I can to bring awareness about Monero in Spanish. There is there's a lack of content in Spanish. For a while, I did a Monero podcast in Spanish as well. That was called El Monero.
El Monero?
El Monero was it called? Yes. Maybe we pick it up afterwards. But yeah, we did that with Rotten Wheel for a couple of months. And it was good. It was good. I think those things are important. I try to do my best, and every time there is a slot, an opportunity to talk about Monero, presenting Monero to some other people, especially in Spanish, I try to take it because I think it's important. So that's basically what I am and what I do.
So about Monero Garden. So that's something that when I was kind of looking into you just a little bit, I'm sure you noticed I found you on Twitter earlier.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that a little bit, and I immediately knew that I wanted to ask about that because it was kind of front and center on your page, but also there's something so friendly about the name of that, and it fits very much with what you were saying, kind of describing as sort of working your way through and discovering things along the way. So you answered one of my biggest questions right there. But would you mind maybe if we could dive just a little bit deeper into that and kind of exactly the things that you're making it to where people can learn there?
Yeah, for sure. For example, based on what I already said, the most straightforward path, I mean, or the way that I think about it, I mean, the big experiment here about the Monero Garden is to see if there are some more people that understands the way I do Monero, right? Not exactly the same content, but the way that my brain kind of works, like asking questions all the time. So I didn't see that already existing, not even in the Get Monero website, whatever. That just lays out in a very clear way the information. I'm trying to work it around. So, for example, the most straightforward part is the how to do things. So it's a stupid thing, but I keep rewriting it all the time because, for example, you say, okay, people just want to receive and send, right? And of course, receiving is before sending, because if they never receive anything, they cannot send. So those kinds of like having to think like that all the time, it drives you crazy. But hopefully, at the end, you will get like a resource that is very easy for you to say, okay, you're interested in Monero, to a friend or something, or something from your family, just go there, and it will ask you questions all the time. For example, the how to do stuff is the most straightforward, but the one that I like the most is the how things work, because it's super messy, because all the time everything is interconnected. So that's where the structure of those kinds of books, so basically it's hyperlinking, it's nothing new, it's the web works like that, is that you can start asking questions about why some things are the way that they are. For example, I don't know if I'm being clear at all here, but just bear with me. For example, usually when you get, not even Monero, but cryptocurrencies in general, when you get interested, right? Interested in something, and you search for materials, and what you usually find is Okay, the consensus algorithm works like that. We use SHA whatever to mine, and everything is spelled out for you. And the value that you get is that if you are not savvy enough yet, for me, it's a paradox, right? So if you know your thing already, it's super obvious to you, and if you don't know it already, it's super obscure.
So I agree with this completely. If you don't mind me interrupting for just a second.
No, for sure. Please
was
make
very
this a
much
conversation. Yeah.
This is very much my experience trying to learn about all of this. I felt very much like seeking things out online, free resources to learn about just how any cryptocurrencies work in general, or specific privacy protocols for ones like Monero. You're kind of dropped right in the middle instead of kind of following a logical path of learning, kind of like what you were saying, how you have been laying out Monero Garden.
Yeah.
And there really isn't enough of that exists, in my opinion. And it's kind of this weird little complaint I've had for a while, that I haven't heard from anyone else. So it's good to hear you say that, actually.
Yeah, basically because I think I myself at the very edge of that. I mean, I'm not a technical person. I come from basically media or arts or whatever. I'm not I don't know how to code, for example. I'm not an engineer or whatever. So, but I'm very interested in these subjects. So I try my best to understand them, but at the same time, I don't forget how it is not to understand them. So I try to work my way back to them. For example, to say, I mean, just make an example. This situation, I'm sure it happened to you several times, or it's going to happen to you. I just say, well, how you get Monero, for example? Okay, yeah, you can buy it, and if you don't buy, well, you could also mine it. And I say, what is that? Yeah, but it's just like computers try to guess a number, and the one that gets the number, you in your head, you're like simplifying. The one that gets the number gets like the free Monero, and sometimes they ask you why, and then you have to, okay, why? Well, because it's very important to mine. Why? Well, let's go back like 3 pages. Remember that I told you that there is like a big list of all the transactions that are made in Monero that everybody share? Yes. Okay. Why? Because if just 1 people have the list or 3 people have the list, they can cheat and they basically can write whatever they want on the list. Yeah, it makes sense. So you don't need to like spread it too much, but it's like logically they have to understand where you come from, right? So it's like, yeah, so everybody has the same list. Yes, everybody has the same list. Perfect. How do we ensure that everybody's on the same list? Well, and then every section is a page basically that says, okay, for this specific question, we are addressing dust. I mean, everybody has a page because we need to fix this problem. And the way that we fix this problem or this issue is doing this. In this case, we spread out things evenly. And for everybody, how can we ensure then that nobody cheats on what it writes? Okay, we are asking for people that to process to waste basically a lot of energy and a lot of machines and whatever to make it work. So everything has a reason. And I don't think for 99% of people it's important to understand the technicalities of how it works, but do understand the reason why it's designed like this. For two main reasons. Why? One is because they can evaluate then afterwards the project on its merits, not on what some other people say it's important or not, right? Most of us are intelligent enough or logical enough to be able to do that. if it's explained in a way that we understand. We don't need to be able to audit code to have an opinion on whether proof of stake or proof of work is better for us, or is the taste that we like, or try as much not to avoid people falling into like tribes or camps that are very static and they never go anywhere, right? So you need a baseline of culture of knowledge to be able to have those discussions, and also because it keeps the community or the people as a whole like open to new ideas. It's super, as much as I like and I can defend almost all of the Monero design decisions that they are now implemented, it's kind of stupid, in my opinion, to think that there's nothing else to progress in Monero, to make any changes, or it's not going. This is the final version of Monero. It's like the 10.0 and nothing is going to change anymore, because it's not true. I mean, and if it were true, it would be a shame. Other projects will take its place as the king of privacy, so to speak, or digital cash, or whatever you want. So to keep our minds open, we need critical thinkers, but we need true critical thinkers, not just dissent, not just people that read a thread on Reddit and say, yeah, this sounds better, and just jumps on the bandwagon on Twitter and bashes each other like crazy. You're not right, you're a traitor, or whatever. Just have a discussion. So that's my goal. But mostly I think it's fun. I mean, if I do a good job, it's going to be fun to read about it.
Absolutely. And then as far as your experience with illustration and stuff like that goes, does that play at all into what you've been developing with Monero Garden? Are you also kind of doing your own work on that in that sense? Does that make sense?
Yes. Sadly, yes. In the original proposal, every page is accompanied by a drawing. And in some of the cases, I think it's even going to be animation, which it takes work. It's not it's not the easiest or cheapest solution, but I think I will get there. I mean, on version 1, probably not everything is going to be as pretty as I want to, or as I wished, but it's going to be complete and it's going to be functional. But yes, the way that I actually understand the world is mostly visual. So in some cases, I actually, when I write, I feel like I'm seeing it visually and translating it into words. And some of these topics are very, I mean, they lend themselves to be visually represented, right? You have the blockchain, you have some things are easier to show than to tell.
And you almost need to be able to see that sort of charted out for you to kind of better understand, I think, the beginning point and end point of that. At least for me, that I know that definitely helps.
Yeah, you mean as a map, basically?
Basically, exactly.
Yes.
See how a kind of system works visually. It makes so much more sense than just trying to understand it verbally, I believe. So
yeah, because, for example, one of the challenges of that's what I like this kind of structure, because one of the challenges of thinking, especially on how things work, is that it's a tricky balance, you know. I mean, the whole, let's just talk Monero, but basically all systems, but even more so cryptocurrencies, but Monero in this case. It's a balance act between, I mean, for example, some people, or there is a lovely tradition in Monero community not to talk too much about price, for example, right? But price is important, because if you don't have any price, or you have no price at all, no value capture in the Monero token, so to speak, there's no incentive for the miners, and if there's no incentive for the miners, everything breaks apart. So you start splitting things in this place, and you have to move around a lot. So I think visually, just as you said, to have like a map of working parts together, you can see how everything interconnects to everything else, and it's like an organism. You cannot have like a head without just legs or without anything. We all need each other in the Monero ecosystem. So ideally, what I will be able to discuss is like individual parts of the individual Lego build, so to speak, and then it gets more and more complex the moment that you start making them interacting. But hopefully you will have a way to actually see the whole picture in a sense.
Yes.
Right? And be able to zoom in into which parts you are not very sure about. But again, one of the things that it will be very easy to be critical of all my work, because I'm sure it's going to have many failures, especially technical ones. People will be super eager to comment on those. But also from people that are not very knowledgeable, to be able to critique what I do, because I'm planning it to iterate on that. So if I make the whole diagram and it's a part that I think is super clever or that is super well explained, and people just comment on it, yeah, I don't get it, or I think you're wrong, or whatever, I will take a second look and iterate on that. I mean, I'm trying to apply the same ethos of free and open source software. I mean, the whole thing will be open source, will be freely available. It's already being funded by the Monero community, so it's not a for-profit project or something. So it will be available, and it will be open to comments and criticisms and push and merge and squash requests and all that. People say, this is wrong, you're wrong. Well, if they are right and I'm wrong, I will change it. That's the way it works.
And actually, that's kind of a good segue into something else that I wanted to ask. How exactly did you become active in the Monero community in the first place? And excuse the lighting, obviously it was getting a little dark in here, so I had to turn that up really quick.
It's very dark in here as well. So
we're trying to work with natural lighting, and it's going down. So
yeah,
this is what we've got.
Yes, by the way, I can turn off my lights as well if you want to take similar situations.
You're fine. You're fine. We can be opposites for this session.
Sorry. What did you ask?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Basically, how you got
how did
I
got into the Monero?
Place.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of straightforward, but it's one of the things. It's related also to what we were discussing before, because it actually has to do with price, or at least with market cap. Because I found Monero in 2017, pretty much by random chance. I remember one friend of mine telling me about Bitcoin like in 2013 or something like that, like a crazy project. And I said like, whoa, that's interesting, but I never even took the effort to learn about it, or much less buy it or whatever. So really one night, just by random, I don't know why, I just remember the whole Bitcoin thing, and I searched online and say, I wonder what happened with that project. I was super sure back in the day that it was going to be super huge, but I don't know why life got in the way. I never researched it. And I look at it and it's like, wow, now it's like, what? Like, I don't know, I remember like $700 or something like that, probably, or probably more, I don't know. And I said, wow. And then quickly found out that there were like more coins, less than they are now. But in 2017, it's like, wow, more coins. What do we need more coins? Or why are they different? And I don't remember exactly, but Monero was on the top 10, I think, or something like that. So I basically read one by one. I mean, it's like going into the website, seeing what it works. But I totally remember that the moment that I got to Monero, the official website of Monero is basically super non-existent. I mean, it exists, but nobody. The official. I always say that the official Monero page is the subreddit. So I remember that I entered Reddit r/Monero, and I super remember it very vividly that the more that I read that very night, the more that I thought that was too good to be true. Like, what's the catch here? I mean, I totally get it at the first couple of posts that, wait, it's actually private. I mean, it really is private. Okay, Bitcoin is not private. That is not good. Okay, and what about this? They kept answering all my questions in a very polite and friendly manner. Everybody, it looked like this, like the friendliest community ever, especially in crypto land. Everybody was so helpful and cheerful and welcoming to newcomers and to basic questions once and again and again and again, like mine. And Diego, who you know very well, had a lot to do with that at that stage in the Monero history. He was basically you, but for Monero. So he was very welcoming, and that's also the way that I got into Monerujo, into the team. I remember very vividly that I made a post that it should be there if I look for it in Monero, that says basically, I am Andrés and I know how to do this and this and this. I don't know anything about this whole list of things that look very useful for the Monero community, but I just know how to draw stuff and to write from time to time and to do this. If I can be of any help, let me know, because I think this project is too good to be true and nobody knows about it. I didn't know about it like 5 minutes ago. And it was Diego who contacted me and said, actually, there is like a little project that is just starting, and maybe they can use some help. And he introduced me to the guys in Monerujo, and I started like that. From that on, every time that I had, almost every time that I had something that I thought could be useful for the Monero community, the feedback has been very good. I mean, I'm very, very open. I see, for example, this is like a tangent, but I see the way I'm not a Monero Maxi by all means. I think there are places for some other coins as well. But I also think that value tends to centralize, you know? There are going to be like big players and like a long tail of very small players. Not things so evenly spread between players. So on these few years, I've seen the narratives around the Bitcoin community as a whole, for example, change a lot, or even the Ethereum community in a way as well. Not so much, but Monero has stayed pretty well the test of time. I think in the community aspect, right? You have some actors that are kind of dissent from time to time, and that's all right, because it's like I see it as the immune system of the community, so to speak. They both voice their concerns, and most people just say, well, I see what you're coming from, but I think it's all right or not, and you have discussions. Some people get angry or sad, people don't, but as a whole, I think it's hold up pretty well. And it's one of the reasons that I stay in the community as well, because eventually protocols are just the people that run them. I mean, that maintain them. So if the people seem aligned, the protocols and all those whole fancy words that are just technical terms are going to follow. That's the way I understand it. So it was Barret no chance. What I was asking before is that when some people say price is not important, I mean, I don't care. Yeah, but you know, if if Monero wasn't one of the top 10 cryptocurrencies at that moment in market cap, I would have noted about it. I wasn't looking for what's the best privacy coin ever, because I didn't know if it exists. So to me, the part about market cap that I care the most is as a billboard to get new people to interested in that, because greed super works for that. So if you see prices rising, you say, well, I don't want to miss out, and then you get people interested in the project. So it's not the only thing, but I think it matters. That's the way that I found about it.
It does, and that does seem to be the biggest reason the average person becomes interested in cryptocurrency in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the good reasons, I mean, the good outcomes of the Monero community being like the way it is that I think if you come from that side, of course you have variety, you know, as in any group. But if you come from that side, I mean, you may get interested in the price, but eventually, if you stay long enough, you start to care less and less and less. So it's like a good funnel, you know. It's like, yeah, it looks like a cryptocurrency. I might get rich with a cryptocurrency. I've seen people getting rich with a cryptocurrency. Yeah, sure. Monero is good for this, for this, for that. Not only is private, it's also decentralized. It's also ASIC resistant. It sounds like a good investment. So people start from that, and then you start seeing like a Monero basically works like a stable coin because it never changes prices, and nobody gets rich with it almost ever. But you stick for the technology, so to speak, or for the ethos. You start to care more about privacy. You start to care more about privacy, about decentralization, about all those things. You start to think long term. So the whole tail emission thing starts to win you over against the fixed emission, the fixed cap emission of something like Bitcoin, which sounds like a super best idea at first. And then you get thinking more long term and say, yeah, but I kind of like Monero's approach more best. So it wins you over time. And if it doesn't, okay, you just go and, I don't know, go for Ethereum or whatever is your taste is fine.
And we have kind of focused on Monero a lot here, but I've heard you've also done a bit of work with Tails and, of course, Stack. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, the work that I've done for Stack is mostly the illustrations that you see on the website, and I think not the onboarding ones, but I think the ones that you see when you choose your level of privacy at the beginning, when you choose to be like the hacker or the designer, basically.
The easy crypto versus
the easy crypto
illustration.
It's like the stereotypical Apple user, you know, at least the Apple user from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Yeah, almost like a fake Steve Jobs / Michael Fassbender. Because it's a Steve Jobs that many people actually know. The one from the movies is crazy how times goes by. But yeah, and the other one is basically the girl from the dragon tattoo.
You can see the inspiration for both of those.
Yes.
For anyone who hasn't used StackWallet and had to set it up yet, this is exactly what he's talking about, and you can definitely see those influences.
And it's easy to go. I mean, cliches are useful, especially for education, because it saves you a lot of time. People just get it. One looks like a hacker, one doesn't. So you can see yourself. At least you can choose. You can choose it as a mirror, or you can choose as inspirational. You know, it's like, yeah, I want to be a hacker, so I want to feel like one. So I choose the privacy one. So that's mostly what I've done for Stack. I worked in the past with Cypher Store as well. It was the store that sold merch for FOSS projects that Diego ran, and I did some designs for that as well. And also the sticker pack. I did a sticker pack that was all in black lines with orange and white. I don't remember the name of the sticker. the sticker pack. That we did one for Stack as well, or Cypher Stack, like 2 years ago, something like that. But the work that I've done for Tails is also very interesting because it's also had a lot of random chance that they knew me, and it looks super connected to Monero, but it's actually not. It was more really of a random chance that I got to work with them, and it's even more like the thing that we were discussing about the ethical side or whatever, because there's no profit to be made in Tails. There's not a Tails coin or whatever, but it's a very interesting project for those that don't know it, that are listening to us. It's a live Linux distribution that you just put it live. Just means that you put it on a USB stick, and it totally forgets what you have done if you want to. I mean, you can use whatever the shittiest laptop in a internet cafe in the middle of Prague to connect to the NSA or whatever, or crack something. You just put it in the worst computer ever. You plug it in, you boot it, and you're on your clean and secure desktop. All the traffic works through Tor, and if you think the Monero people are paranoid, the Tails people are more paranoid for you, on your behalf. And it's the whole Tails work. For them, I've done illustrations as well on the onboarding, on the website, mostly educational material, and I also help with the A/B testing of how people get to actually especially start using Tails, because once you already know how to use it, it's easier. But basically the Tails section could be perfectly the Monero Garden section of the activists, because its privacy is reducing or minimizing trust as much as possible. Is aimed towards the biggest hackers or the most activists, the journalists that are in danger in countries that are looking to kill them, basically, to normal people that just want their life private, or just want to keep the things separated. Maybe they use Chrome on a MacBook every day, and Gmail, and it's all good, and Facebook, but to those other things they want to keep private, and for those they use Tails. I personally feel very aligned to both of those things. It's just the same as with Monero. I mean, one of the things that I mean, I think I don't know how to say this, but I mean, I love the internet as a whole. I am old enough to be able to have, I don't know, to be 12 years old and not having internet at hand, and then discovering it and working my way through dial-up and crappy user experience and all that, and find it fascinating. And one of the things that I think it's not very revolutionary to think this, but I think it's important to keep remembering this nowadays, that it seems like internet is super for granted, that it's everywhere, that it gave everybody the possibility to be whatever they wanted to be, which didn't exist that much in the real meat world. So it was easier back then, even because everything was pretty much anonymous, and you didn't have big data or whatever, and all the big conglomerates, and you weren't tracked everywhere. You didn't speak to your friends about socks one day and get 2,000 ads for socks on Instagram and stuff like that. So now the internet got more real, more like the real world, and we kind of keep losing that special space. It got more useful for life. You have Google Maps that tell you what's the best coffee shop nearby you, and how much is the price, and if it's closed or if it's open. It got super convenient, and convenience is a super trap. So I welcome that, but at the same time, we lost a lot. And with projects like Monero and projects like Tails, which are private by default, which is an important thing, I think we get some of that stuff back. I mean, it's optional. You can choose whatever you want to disclose. You can choose how much you want to share with others. And by being able to choose, again, we get some value for it. If it's not, I don't know if I'm explaining it all right, but if it's not optional, it's worthless. Any forced interaction makes no sense, or it's even violent, in my opinion. So, being it from even talking to even sex, whatever. I mean, it's just the fun is for it to be optional, basically. So, the thing, privacy is one of the things that are and censorship resistance as well. It's one of the things that you need to get some value back from our interactions.
Absolutely. So it sounds very much like the projects that you have chosen to contribute to are ones that you personally feel very connected to, at least the ones we've spoken about so far.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure we could find more to talk about, but we have been on here for quite a while. Is there anything else you'd like to kind of throw out there before we begin to wrap things up here?
No. No, and I welcome people to pressure me online about like getting Monero Garden done, basically. So people ask about that. You're more than welcome to do that, because I will feel like there is an actual need to do it. And also encourage people to get to know more about Tails, because it may sound like a super hackery thing that you have to learn about a lot, but the aim of those guys and girls that work on that, it's totally the opposite. It's getting normal people, getting it to be super easy, super easy, super friendly, and this as in the same venue, in the same way that Monero tries, is to protect the newbies. I mean, to protect the newcomers, not to make it very hard for you to fuck it, basically. And also Monerujo, the wallet that I work in together with Balsar and M2049er. It's I think it's a very important project to maintain. We all have our regular jobs, so we don't rely on Monerujo making a profit to exist. So I think it makes us very special. It has its drawbacks. We take sometimes a long time to make new features or to get stuff done, and so people get annoyed by that. Sometimes we are not very good at making and focusing on like obvious features that looks like everybody wants, but at the same time we tend to focus very much on features that we find fun or interesting or that nobody else is doing. So I encourage people to also get to know, get familiarized with that and try that. It's I think it's a different approach to what some of the actors on the space does do. For example, one of the projects that people keep asking about, and it's already been funded by the community. It's and I tell you because it's relevant right now because of the whole ledger situation. Is the Psychic project, which basically acts like a fake hardware wallet, allows you to just use an old Android phone, Android at this moment, and that you have on your drawer, forgotten. You just unplug it from the internet. You never connect it. You install Monerujo. You never connect it again to any network, and it will create you like a cold dish wallet that you can connect to your actual phone, your modern phone too. So it's safer than just using a wallet on your phone. Maybe it's not as safe as the most secure thing. That discussion is endless, but it's a great solution that we're working on, and it's going to help a lot of people, especially in the developing countries like mine, that either don't have access or easy access to hardware wallets, or basically import stuff that has to go through customs, or you get very easily singled out by your purchases by the government or whatever. But it's also very expensive. It's also you get excluded by price, so to speak, of some of the security products that are available.
I
So
hadn't even considered the possibility of kind of accessibility issues around some of the hardware options and stuff. That's an interesting point, actually.
yeah, for sure. I mean, for example, Argentina, my country, is not even the worst. I mean, it's just most of the problems here are just inefficiencies or legal restrictions, right? But you're not in danger for that. But in some other countries, you are. So it's basically a very stupid idea to import, I don't know, a ledger on your name, because it singles you out, like this guy is probably rich or something. And when for world standards, you probably aren't. I mean, I don't know, maybe for an American to consider themselves rich is to have like $1 million, for example, and for someone in Venezuela to have $1,000, it's a lot. It's a lot. It really is a lot. It's like many months of living or something, or $10,000, whatever. Or you get very quick. You get to the price of a house, for example, and it may not be that worth it for somebody living in Europe to pay that much for a hardware wallet, but for someone living in a developing country, is their whole life savings. It's not just like an extra investment with their 10% of their money. It's everything that they got, and they usually trust or dare to invest more money in cryptocurrencies because they're used to a monetary system that is super broken, or they are exposed to currencies that are devaluating very fast, like the Argentinian peso or the Venezuelan bolivar, or there are several or the Turkish lira or whatever. So they're there. It's like, okay, compared to that, I don't know, Bitcoin or Monero or Ethereum sounds like a super sound investment. In most cases, they are. So they put a lot of money in there, and okay, they are safer from the devaluation, but they are more at risk from the technical side. So they deserve, I think, deserve is a strong word, but it would be nice for them to have access to a more secure solution that you can have with commodity hardware. So as much as Monero is about mining with commodity hardware, we at Monerujo think that it's important to be able to be as secure as possible with commodity hardware. And it's also green because you're using forgotten phones on your drawer. So it's a good thing that we can use all things and not keep buying new hardware for everything.
Also a good point.
Yeah. So that's basically it. I know.
Well, would you like to plug in any of your socials, anything that you're comfortable sharing right now?
Sure. I'm sure that you will put it on the description, but I am Andrés with an H right there in the middle, almost everywhere, on Reddit, on Twitter. Just reach out. I will probably reply. I do most time, unless it looks like very scammy. I try to reply and try to be nice. So my socials are always like anhdr.es everywhere. Monerujo on Twitter is Monerujo Wallet, Monerujo or Monerujo Wallet. So find us there. And for those interested in for those that understand English, so they listen to this, but also speak Spanish, there is a quite big Spanish Telegram group. I think it's Monero /_s, Monero S. That is very friendly. I'm one of the moderators, and if you get questions about Monero or need help, whatever, reach out, look for it. People are willing to help.
Awesome. And just to throw this out there on the topic, if anyone is watching who happens to be bilingual or even more and wants to maybe contribute captions, please let us know. We would really appreciate that, because as of right now, this is only going to be available in English, and it is kind of a small project right now, but that would be amazing too. Just
Yeah, it will be
throw
awesome.
it out there just in case.
Yeah. It will be awesome.
All right. Well, Andres, thank you so much for meeting with me today and having such a kind of thorough conversation about the different projects that you're involved with.
Thank you very much for the interest and for your time.
All right. Well, I'll personally be interested to see how Monero Garden goes. I'll continue to follow you and your work, and it'll be cool to check in down the line, I think.
Same.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I'll go ahead and let you go now. And thank you for being part of our early days here of StackCast, episode 3.
Yeah, and good luck with the whole podcast. Not also the wallet, but also the podcast.
Thank you so much. All right. Until the next episode, which will be very soon. Bye.